Before you touch your phone, before you remember yesterday, before the world tells you who you are supposed to be, pause. This moment is not random. It is the most powerful moment of your day. Because whatever you accept as true right now becomes the law that governs the hours ahead. You are not here to wait for life to happen. You are here to decide how life must respond to you. Nothing outside of you has power today unless you give it permission. So as you listen, let the noise settle. Let urgency fall away. Let the mind grow quiet. You are about to move into a state where effort is unnecessary, where struggle dissolves, and where expectation alone shapes outcomes. This is not motivation. This is remembrance. Listen carefully, because what you assume next will follow you everywhere you go today. Every day begins long before events unfold. It begins in the silent moment where you decide, often unconsciously, what kind of day this will be. Most people wake up and immediately surrender that moment. They reach for their phone, revisit yesterday's problems, or anticipate today's challenges. Without realizing it, they step into an inner state of reaction, and once that state is chosen, the day simply follows instruction. But the truth is this: nothing in your day has meaning until you assign it one. Your inner assumption is not a passive thought. It is an active command. It is the atmosphere you carry into every room, every conversation, every situation. And life, being neutral and obedient, reflects it back with precision. If you assume the day will be heavy, it will find ways to feel heavy. If you assume resistance, obstacles will appear effortlessly. But when you assume ease, alignment begins to move quietly on your behalf. This is why mornings matter, not because of time, but because of openness. When you first awaken, the mind has not yet hardened into patterns. It is impressionable. It is receptive. And whatever you impress upon it becomes the foundation of your experience. You do not need to visualize every detail of your day. You do not need to plan outcomes. You only need to choose the state from which the day unfolds. Ask yourself this: what would it feel like if today worked out? Not in imagination, but in expectation. That feeling, subtle, calm, unquestioned, is the state that governs outcomes. When you carry an assumption, you do not force behavior. Your tone changes. Your reactions soften, your decisions align naturally, and people respond differently to you without knowing why. Because they are responding to your state. The world is not responding to your words. It is responding to what you believe without effort. This is why affirmations fail when they feel strained. This is why effort creates resistance. Trying to convince the mind only reinforces doubt. Instead, assumption works when it feels normal. You are not trying to have a good day. You are assuming that you do. And assumption does not argue. It does not ask how. It simply rests. As you move through your morning, you may still encounter noise. Thoughts may arise. Old habits may attempt to reclaim attention. Do not fight them. Fighting confirms their power. Simply return to the state, a calm knowing, a quiet expectation, a gentle certainty. Let the mind say whatever it wants while you remain anchored in being. This is not denial of reality. This is authorship of reality. Circumstances are delayed reflections. They show you who you were being, not who you are choosing now. So do not react to them. Reacting is agreeing. Instead, move as someone who knows the outcome is settled. When delays happen, you remain neutral. When surprises appear, you receive them easily. When opportunities arrive, you recognize them instantly. Because you are not surprised by alignment, you expected it. And this is the key. Expectation does not tense the body, it relaxes. The more natural your assumption, the faster reality conforms. You do not need to monitor the day. You do not need to check if it is working. Checking is doubt in disguise. Assume once and let go. Every great shift begins with a subtle inner decision. This is how things go for me now. And once that decision is made sincerely, life rearranges quietly, not dramatically, not loudly, but precisely. So before the day claims you, claim the day, not with effort, not with struggle, but with awareness. Because the day does not lead you, you lead the day by the state you choose to live from. Most people believe that effort creates results. They believe that action, repetition, or struggle is what moves life forward. But effort without the right inner feeling only produces exhaustion. It keeps results distant and inconsistent. What truly shapes experience is not what you do, but how it feels to be you while doing it. Feeling is not emotion in the dramatic sense. It is the quiet atmosphere of being. It is the subtle inner knowing that exists beneath thoughts and words. And this feeling, whether conscious or unconscious, is what life responds to. You can say the right words and still feel uncertain. You can take the right actions and still feel lack. And when that feeling of lack is present, life mirrors it back faithfully. This is why changing words without changing feeling leads nowhere. Creation begins the moment you accept a state as natural. If you feel like someone who expects good outcomes, reality arranges itself to confirm that expectation. If you feel like someone who must struggle, life provides endless proof of struggle, not as punishment, but as agreement. Life does not judge your feeling, it reflects it. The feeling you carry is a signal. And the world is constantly tuning itself to match that signal. This is why the morning state matters so deeply. When you wake up, you are not yet immersed in the roles, tensions, and identities of the day. You are closer to neutrality. And neutrality is where choice becomes effortless. In that moment, you are free to decide what does it feel like to already be okay. Not excited, not euphoric, just settled. That settled feeling is power. It is the feeling of not needing proof. It is the feeling of not seeking permission. It is the feeling of knowing without explanation. When you rest in that state, action becomes aligned. You say the right thing without rehearsing. You arrive at the right place without forcing. You notice opportunities without hunting for them. Because your inner world is no longer divided. Many people wait for circumstances to change so they can feel better, but this reverses the order. Circumstances are effects. Feeling is the cause. Waiting only prolongs the same pattern. The moment you allow yourself to feel fulfilled now, you end the waiting. This does not mean pretend. It means accepting. Accepting the feeling of ease. Accepting the feeling of being supported. Accepting the feeling that things are already moving. And acceptance requires no effort. You do not need to hold the feeling tightly. You do not need to maintain it perfectly. You simply return to it when you notice you've drifted. Feeling is not fragile. It is forgiving. Even brief moments of alignment reshape the day. A few seconds of inner calm can redirect hours of experience. This is why short pauses throughout the day are powerful. You pause, you soften, you remember who you are being, and immediately tension dissolves. The body responds first. The breath deepens, the shoulders relax. And in that physical shift, the mind releases control. When the mind releases control, life takes over the work. This is the hidden secret. When you stop managing outcomes, outcomes manage themselves. Feeling is not something you chase. It is something you allow. You allow yourself to feel secure without knowing how. You allow yourself to feel confident without proving anything. You allow yourself to feel successful without evidence. And this allowance is what collapses resistance. As the day unfolds, you may still encounter contrast. Let it be there. Contrast does not cancel the state unless you argue with it. Observe it without attaching meaning. Remain faithful to the feeling, not the appearance. Appearances change quickly when ignored. This is why calm people are powerful. They are not distracted by surface-level movement. They know what they are being, and they stay there. And eventually reality must conform, because the world has no creative authority of its own. It borrows its instructions from your inner feeling. So today, do not focus on fixing life. Focus on feeling right within yourself. The moment that shifts, everything else follows, naturally, quietly, inevitably. One of the greatest leaks of power in daily life is reaction. Not action, but reaction. Reaction is the habit of letting what you see, hear, or experience decide what you believe. It is the moment you allow appearances to define truth, and the instant that happens, you surrender authorship of your reality. They are reflections of past inner states still playing out. When you react to them emotionally, you revive the very condition that created them. And so the cycle continues, not because life is against you, but because it is consistent. Most people wake up already reacting. They scan their messages, review problems, replay conversations, and rehearse worries. Before the day has even begun, Their inner state has been chosen for them. From that point on, life simply confirms it. But there is another way to move. Instead of reacting to what appears, you remain loyal to what you have assumed. This loyalty is not forceful. It is quiet. It is the calm refusal to let temporary conditions redefine who you are being. Remaining faithful to the inner state does not mean denying what is happening. It means refusing to grant it authority. You observe without absorbing. You notice without identifying. You let the outer world move while you remain still with. When something unexpected happens, the impulse is to label it, to decide what it means. But meaning is the doorway through which reaction enters. The moment you assign meaning, you attach emotion. And emotion energizes the experience. Instead, pause. Not to fix, not to analyze, but to return. Return to the state you chose earlier. Return to the feeling of steadiness. Return to the knowing that outcomes are already arranged. This return is your power. You do not argue with circumstances, because arguments imply equality. Circumstances are not your equal. They are effects catching up to causes already set in motion. When you stop reacting, you stop feeding the old pattern. This is why inner discipline matters, not rigid discipline, but gentle consistency. Each time you notice yourself slipping into reaction, you simply step back into being. No judgment, no frustration, no urgency. Reaction thrives on intensity. Calm dissolves it. As you practice this, something remarkable happens. Situations that once triggered emotional responses lose their grip. Delays feel lighter. Conversations flow more smoothly. Even challenges soften, not because life has changed, but because you have. The world always mirrors the level of emotional charge you bring to it. When you bring neutrality, it responds with cooperation. When you bring trust, it responds with alignment. This is why detachment is not indifference. It is intelligence. You are not detaching from your desire. You are detaching from the need to control its arrival. And control is the greatest form of resistance. The more you insist on watching for results, the more you confess doubt. Watching keeps you anchored in time. Faith collapses time. So instead of checking the mirror of circumstances, you keep your attention on the source. The source is always within. As the day unfolds, you may be tempted to react emotionally to other people's moods, words, or behavior. Remember, people are not acting independent. They are responding to states. And when you remain centered, their behavior often shifts without effort. Not because you changed them, but because you changed the state you occupy. This is mastery. Mastery is not controlling others. It is controlling reaction. The moment you stop reacting, you regain authority. Authority does not shout. It rests. It trusts. It expects. And expectation is silent. Silence is powerful because it does not contradict itself. It does not waver. It does not negotiate. When you remain faithful to the inner state long enough, reality reorganizes. Not all at once, not dramatically, but steadily, inevitably. Things resolve. Tensions dissolve. Opportunities appear naturally. And often you realize later that what once concerned you no longer matters. That is the sign of alignment. So today, let appearances come and go. Let the world move. Let events rearrange. But you remain unmoved within. Because the moment you stop reacting, you stop repeating the past. And when the past no longer has emotional fuel, the future reshapes itself quietly, right before your eyes. Most effort in life comes from living in the middle, the space between wanting and having, between hoping and receiving. This middle is where tension lives. It is where people wait, measure progress, and ask repeatedly, when will it happen? But creation does not respond to waiting. It responds to being. To live from the end does not mean imagining a future event and wishing it close. It means occupying the inner position of someone for whom the matter is already settled. There is no urgency in that state, no pressure, no negotiation. When something is finished, you do not chase it. You move on. This is the state that shifts reality. Most people attempt to visualize outcomes while remaining emotionally anchored in lack. They picture success but feel uncertainty. They imagine relief while still bracing for disappointment. And life responds to the feeling, not the picture. Living from the end is a decision, not a technique. It is the decision to stop asking life to change and instead change who you are being in relation to the desire. What would change in you if it were already done? Not what would you do, but how would you rest? That rest is the end state. When you enter it, behavior adjusts naturally. You speak differently. You listen more. You stop over-explaining. You stop trying to impress or convince. Your energy shifts from effort to expectation. And expectation is magnetic. Living from the end does not require constant attention. In fact, constant attention pulls you back into wanting. The end state is subtle. It is felt in absence of strain, not presence of excitement. It feels normal. This is why it is so powerful. Normal does not create resistance. Normal does not argue with reality. Normal assumes alignment as default. When you assume something is normal for you, life reorganizes to preserve that assumption. The challenge is that the mind is trained to stay alert, to scan for proof, to look for confirmation. But confirmation comes last, not first. Looking for it too soon only delays it. So instead of watching for change, you release the need to watch. You trust that what is impressed internally must express externally. This trust is not blind. It is logical. Every effect must have a cause, and the cause always comes first. Living from the end means you no longer prepare for disappointment. Mock preparation is fear disguised as realism. The end state does not prepare. It expects. As you move through your day from this position, you may still take action, but the action feels different. It is inspired, not forced. It flows, not strains, and often less action is required than you expected, because life fills in the gaps. People enter your experience unexpectedly. Conversations open doors effortlessly. Opportunities appear without planning, not because you chase them, but because you made space for them by letting go of need. This is the paradox. The moment you stop trying to get, you begin to receive. Living from the end also frees you from emotional dependency on timing. You stop asking, why hasn't it happened yet? Because that question only exists in the middle. In the end, the question is irrelevant. You know something is yours the same way you know your name. You do not wake up each day hoping it will still belong to you. You assume it. That assumption is what you adopt. If doubt arises, do not fight it. Fighting gives it energy. Simply return to the feeling of completion, not excitement. Completion is calm. Completion is calm. Completion is grounded. Completion does not rush the day. As this becomes familiar, you realize that the end state is not something you visit. It is a place you live from. And once it becomes home, the world has no option but to adjust. Reality does not resist clarity. It resists confusion. When you are clear within, life reflects clarity without delay. So today, do not live toward your desire. Live from it. Let the day meet you there. And watch how easily life catches up to the position you have already taken within yourself. When you're ready, I can continue with transformation does not demand force. It demands persistence, but not the kind fueled by strain or pressure. True persistence is quiet. It is the steady return to a chosen state until that state feels more familiar than the old one. Most people abandon their inner assumption too quickly, not because it failed, but because appearances challenged it. They felt calm for a moment. Then something contradicted that calm, and they immediately concluded that the inner shift didn't work. But inner change is not fragile. It only feels unfamiliar. The old identity has momentum. It has habits. emotional reactions and patterns that want to repeat. When they surface, it does not mean you are failing. It means the transition is happening. Persistence is simply refusing to identify with the old state. When it appears, you do not fight it. You do not suppress it. You do not analyze it. You notice it and return to the feeling you chose. Return to the assumption of ease. Return to the awareness that things are already in motion. This return is the practice. At first you may need to return often. The mind wanders. The body remembers tension. The world presents reminders of the past. None of this matters unless you attach meaning to it. Meaning is what solidifies states. So you stop labeling inner movement as progress or failure. You simply remain faithful to what you prefer to be. This gentleness is what allows the state to take root. When you persist with force, you create resistance. When you persist with ease, the state integrates naturally. It becomes familiar. And once something is familiar, it no longer requires effort to maintain. This is how identity changes. You stop trying to feel confident, and you simply are. You stop reminding yourself to trust, and trust becomes automatic. You stop practicing calm, and calm becomes your baseline. At that point, life responds differently, because it has to. It is responding to a new version of you. Persistence also means allowing time without measuring it. Measuring implies doubt. It keeps you anchored to results rather than states. But states create results on their own schedule. You do not dig up a seed to check if it's growing. You trust the process because growth is natural. The same is true here. Each time you choose your inner state, you are watering the seed. Even when nothing seems to change, something is stabilizing. Something is reorganizing. Something is aligning behind the scenes. And suddenly, without warning, reality reflects the shift, often in ways you did not predict. This is why persistence must be flexible. You do not cling to specific forms. You trust the essence of what you have assumed. The world will find the most natural way to deliver it. If discouragement appears, treat it like weather. It passes. Do not let it redefine you. The moment you identify with discouragement, you slow the process. The moment you observe it and return, you strengthen the new state. You are not here to perfect your thoughts. You are here to embody a state. States are not intellectual. They are lived. They show up in how you breathe, how you respond, how you wait, how you move through uncertainty. And the more you live from the chosen state, the less effort it takes to sustain. Eventually you forget that you ever practiced. That is when persistence becomes identity.
and identity is destiny. When the state becomes who you are, life no longer feels like something you manage. It feels like something that cooperates. You stop preparing for disappointment because disappointment no longer fits your self-concept. You expect resolution. You expect support. You expect alignment. Not because you demand it, but because it feels normal. This is the final shift. You are no longer using principles. You are living them. And when you live from this place, manifestation is no longer something you do in the morning or remember during stress. It becomes the way you exist. So persist but gently. Return, but without pressure. Trust but without conditions. What you are becoming does not need to be rushed. It only needs to be accepted. And once accepted, it cannot be undone. Now carry this awareness with you, not as something you repeat, but as something you are. Do not question how the day will unfold. Do not argue with appearances. Let the outer world do what it must while you remain anchored within. When something goes your way, accept it naturally. When something delays, remain unmoved. Your certainty is not loud. It is calm. It is settled. It is unshakable. Today does not need your force. It needs your assumption. So move gently. Expect quietly. Trust completely. What belongs to you cannot miss you. What aligns with your state must appear. This day is already arranged in your favor. Now step into it. Thank you for choosing to begin your day consciously. Thank you for giving yourself these moments of alignment. If this message resonated with you, return to it each morning and let it shape your awareness before the world does. Carry this state with you and let life respond.